Let me say this real quick and then get into something that's dear to my heart that I got to talk about. Because if I don't, I'm going to have some problems with some people. So give me a second. Give me a second, guys. Give me just sharing this real quick. What's going on, guys? What's going on? So, listen, I just want to talk about this whole piece real quick because I got to talk about it because if I don't, I'm going to have some problems. Many people know that I'm half black and half cubano, tú sabes, creo que la gente latino, tú sabes, la negrito, salud, salud, salud. So, I felt it necessary to talk about this in my message to President Trump about Cuba and Diddy. As many of y'all know, President Maduro, formerly of Venezuela, was, let's say, captured and is now here in the New York City tri-state area in the former prison that Diddy was held in, the former federal prison down in Brooklyn, Connecticut. Brooklyn, New York. And so with that being said, there was a lot of disruptions that happened in that country. One of those disruptions that happened was a certain trade agreement that they had about oil being funded from Venezuela to Cuba. And so this helped with the infrastructure that Cuba had, which is very narrowly making it already. I can give you an example. If you go to Cuba right now, entonces, esta por la gente ahí, entonces, if you go to Cuba right now, one of the things that you'll notice is, and this is before this electrical grid problem, which is a real topic of my conversation is going on, because the electricity evidently is being, how can you say, conserved. The electricity that's being conserved in Cuba right now is plunging people into hours of darkness. You're talking 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours on a country that's already destabilized as it already seems. There were some attempts earlier to go back into Cuba. They built an embassy there. The embassy still stands, even though it's empty. But there's a U.S. embassy still in, which I'm pretty sure the powers that be understand and know the truth. So going back into Cuba wouldn't be a problem. The issue is this the approach that we're going to take for Cuba as far as infrastructure that was already dwindled? Meaning that people in Cuba, if you don't know, people in Cuba, they get two types of bills. You can either get state-sanctioned bills, or state-sanctioned restaurants, or state-sanctioned grocery stores, and everything is state-sanctioned because it's a communist country. And I think the U.S., they want to change some of that and maybe bring it and open it up abroad or whatever the case may be. But make no mistake about it. You can do this, but do you want resentment with a country that you formerly had a missile crisis with? I don't think it's good. I understand this. I think with this move of potentially starving these people, you understand, on the island, I think you can run into a bigger problem, which will hit you hard in Mar-a-Lago down there in Florida, don't you know? See, when you get people out crying and they're saying, we're hungry, we're in the dark, we had nothing to do with this in a country that was already crippling, you'll get a reaction from somebody that you never thought you would get a reaction from, President Trump. And that's going to be the UN. I can almost guarantee. Not only is the UN going to come in, they're going to call it a humanitarian crisis. Mark my words on this. I'm usually right about things like this. I don't know how I am, but I'm usually right. President Trump, what you may endure where Cuba is, you'll start getting cries coming out, even though the internet service is limited there. Electricity has definitely been limited there because of Venezuela's prior agreement with Cuba as far as oil and things of that measure. And I don't know what type of control actions you're trying to come under, but what I'm trying to tell you is it's looking like we're bullets to the world. And that's not the way you want to look. We've already went in and snatched up President Maduro and grabbed him like a thief in the night. We grabbed up President Maduro, grabbed him like he was a thief in the night. And now the repercussions of grabbing him up are now that the neighboring country that they were supplying oil to, which is Cuba, is now being plunged into darkness almost 6 to 8 hours a day. Entonces, sabe, para la gente latino ahí, entonces, sabe, saludo, representando ahí, entonces, sabe, pero on YouTube. I gotta say something. You know, I gotta say something. So I'm an American citizen. My mother's born here in America. I guess on that end, I'm one of the FBA folks too. But out of all the things that I would speak up on, I have to speak up on this. I'm not with backing people being plunged into darkness for 6 to 8 hours, especially para la gente latino a la mía. La gente. I'm not for that. I think it's sad. I think it's something that needs to be cured and cured quickly. And I think on a world stage, President Trump, you're going to find that the UN is soonly going to intervene. And it's not going to look very good for you or your party. Now, I'm not saying this because I hope this happens. I'm not saying this because I want to persuade President Trump. As many of y'all know, I've done live after live after live for the past 5 years at Trump Tower. I'm welcome there. I've done inside and outside. The staff up there knows me quite well. The officers up there know me quite well. So take this as no disrespect. That's not what it's intended. It's not also intended to put any type of pressure. But what it is to remind you of is this, and I'll say it again. President Trump, if you go and continue this and furthermore invade somehow Cuba, what's going to happen is you're going to get a reaction that probably doesn't work. And that reaction is going to be held by the UN. It's going to be held by many other people that find that Cuba has now become a humanitarian crisis. And once you got a humanitarian crisis on your hands, it's hard to get the how can I say it, speckle of the reputation that you had prior to that. You understand? They're going to take in accord what happened down in Mexico. And even though U.S. didn't have anything to do with it, technically, as far as footwork is concerned, if you know what I mean, boots on the ground, there still was some involved. When you look at Maduro and you look at the situation with him, same thing. He's now being held, and we watched him get marched into the jailhouse and to the courthouse, which doesn't concern me. Then you look at Iran and the current situation over there. You don't want to start looking like bullies. Take it from me there, Gip, I'm trying to tell you. You don't want to look like bullies because that's when you get the UN intervening. Now, the UN Accord and Charter, as many of y'all know, goes back many decades now, but make no sense, make almost 100 years now. Make sense of it, this. I'm going to hold down Cuba, I'm going to hold down the United States too, as far as representing both of them in my bloodline. But at the same time, I've got to say to Cuba as well, at some point or another, you're going to have to take some type of deal. You're going to have to take some type of deal. If you don't take some type of deal, Cuba, el sabor mío, you don't take a deal, sooner or later, you're going to find yourself plunged into even more despair. So I would say, make sure if you bring something to the table, make sure it's something, Cuba, that you can agree to that will add to the progression. Pero la gente amigo, tú sabes, para la sabor, la cubana. You know what I mean? And make sure that it's something that it benefits everybody and the people of Cuba. That's all I ask. Other than that, you know, I would say to you this, and like I said before, you don't want to have a humanitarian crisis happening in Iran and in Cuba at the same time. I will repeat one more time. You've already got a burgeoning humanitarian crisis happening in Iran, President Trump. You don't want an even further humanitarian crisis happening in Cuba via the United States. If you have this go on, you're going to have the UN intervene, and they're going to call measures against you. And then we're going to be back at square one. Now they all focuses back on President Trump and how terrible he is or whatever. And the man's not really as terrible as a lot of people claim him to be. But that's what I would say. As far as Diddy is concerned, I know a lot of y'all wait for that part, right? As far as Diddy is concerned, I got to say this. President Trump, you said that you didn't want to give Diddy a pardon. And I said, all right, cool, whatever. You know what I mean? I know you give. I know what's going on. But the point I'm getting at is he didn't want to give Diddy a pardon. Okay, cool. But as many of y'all know with the story of Diddy, there was a lot of people that were sitting back and they were like, well, Diddy's terrible. He messed with kids. He did this. He did that. He did this. He did that. Come to find out, he didn't get convicted of anything that y'all said he did or anything else. That part you can't argue with. The case has been adjudicated. He's on his way home. He's sentenced. There's no more argument about it. However you feel after that is personal. But did you know this? One of the January 6 fellas, and I want to make sure I put this in emphasis. One of the January 6 fellas there that was out of the many decided that he was going to, well, fiddle with the church. You understand what I'm saying? He was fiddling with the church. You understand what I'm saying? I think everybody can pick that up. I can't say it too much because, you know, the way this app works and everything like that, I don't want to risk my channel for saying that. But he was fiddling with the church. Now, you know me, I ain't no promoter of people that fiddle with the church. But this dude, that was a January 6th rioter, was pardoned by President Trump. A lot of people are not talking about this. But this guy was pardoned by President Trump. And I said to myself, well, Trump pardoned this dude, but you don't want to pardon Diddy, and look at the results you got from that guy. This guy just got convicted for fiddling with the church just yesterday. And nobody's talking about it, nobody's bringing it up. Well, I'm bringing it up. This white gentleman that got a pardon previously, well, along with many others who got pardons, have went on to commit new crimes. You understand what I'm saying? And the funny thing about it is, and if you didn't hear me, a lot of the people that President Trump pardoned from January 6th specifically have gone on to commit more crimes, more heinous crimes, like this one individual I'm mentioning right now, who actually got convicted just yesterday, the day before yesterday, for fiddling with the children. He was a children toucher, you understand? I say it like that. So, and I'm pretty sure most of y'all in here ain't gonna promote messing with the church. You understand? But this fiddler, he decided he wanted to. So what I say to you is this, Trump. You're going to run into that argument sooner or later. Not yet, but you're going to run into that argument. And listen to me very carefully, Trump. Just listen to me. You're going to run into an argument sooner or later. You didn't want to give Diddy a pardon. But instead, you gave a guy that was fiddling with the children a pardon, who later on, just 2 days ago, got convicted. So it's hard to explain things like that when you come into the conceptive point of, hey, you know what? We're not going to give this guy a pardon, but we're going to give this guy a pardon, and we're going to give this other, some of the other atrocious people that he's given pardons to, who, in my opinion, have done worse than Diddy ever did. There are some disgusting people that Trump gave a pardon to. So I would ask for this, Trump, and I'm going to ask very nicely or whatever. And considering that that gentleman got arrested, rearrested, and charged for new crimes, especially for dealing with the children, I would think it would be an acceptable move by you to maybe reconsider pardoning Diddy before this conversation takes a broader perspective and it goes up in the broader media spectrums. And I don't think that would be the best move. Personally, I'm just saying personally. I'm not saying nothing or nothing like that. You know I move, I don't move like that. But all I'm saying is, it might be in your best interest, even if you do it secretly, even if you do it quietly, even if you do it with no contention, when nobody can hear, to maybe reconsider or set up the formalities for Puff to get some type of pardon. Because if I'm saying the only thing Puff got convicted for was flying the prostitute child there, and that's what he got convicted of. But the guy that got a pardon from January 6th, this guy got arrested and resentenced for fiddling with the church. Now, I don't care how much you don't like Puff. I could care less. You understand what I'm saying? But I got to speak up. I got to speak up for Capo. You understand? Because ain't nobody else going to do it. I feel like I'm the only last person maybe left at Bad Boy. So what? You know what I'm saying? I'm not one of those guys. I ride till the shit falls through the ground. You understand? Get the life rafts. We'll be all right. I'm not going to sit here and say Puff should be sitting in jail when there's a list you can actually go look up right now, and what you'll see is all the people that President Trump has pardoned. And you'll also be able to look at, and I think you can find it in Newsweek, and I think also there's another one in USA Today, and there's another one, if I'm correct, The Atlantic. I think those three publications have the best interpretation of it because of the simple fact they actually go into what they were charged for and how they were pardoned and how much time they actually served. Some of these guys, like Santos over here in New York City, Tri-State, he was stealing money from his own family. He was a senator. Went down to Brazil, had a whole bunch of nefarious things happen with him down there, and he was given the pardon. There was many other people that were given the pardon on that list, from financiers that had stolen, financiers that have done this and done that. Very much more heinous crimes than flying out some prostitutes that were made. You understand? If we're talking about sexual romps, I think President Trump, you have to look at your own inquiries and the things that they're saying about you right now when it comes to this whole Epstein thing. You get what I'm saying? I'll even go further than that. There is video footage on this channel when I was down there when Trump was going up against, I forgot, what was her name, Stormy Daniels. I was down there at the courthouse right there on Center Street, and I was one of the main people that was out there for 3 days up until the point where that gentleman, he set himself on fire down there at the courthouse, and I said, okay, this is enough for me. I'm not going back down to this anymore. But these were things that were happening at Trump's trial. So when I bring in contention of this, I'll say this. There's some problem here where some people are getting one form of adjudication while others are not. And it's starting to be kind of apparent. There is no reason George Santos should have got a pardon. George Santos is a piece of trash. He should have been able to fall out his whole sentence real quietly, especially if you're stealing from your own people. I think that's the most disgusting people in the world. People that mess with children and people that steal from old folks and family members. They're the worst. I could deal with a drug dealer. A drug dealer ain't gonna deal about drugs to nobody but this person they wanted. People that steal from old people and people that do things, crimes like this, these people have no chill whatsoever. They're just going to keep taking until they get caught. So I'll say this, man, and I'll end it at this or whatever, because I gotta talk. Like I said, I'll say these two things, and hopefully, you know what I'm saying. I'm gonna do something so I know where to get to the right ears. Number one, about Cuba. I think that President Trump, you need to reconsider going into Cuba and get something done about them being in the dark for 6 to 8 hours and already crippling the country. As far as Diddy is concerned, I think you need to reevaluate this thing or whatever based on the people that you've already gave a pardon to. You understand what I'm saying? And let it be known. Who's the bottom of the barrel? Who, Ricky? Who's the bottom of the barrel? Who's the bottom of the barrel? Tell us. Who's the bottom of the barrel? You really believe in the UN? Let me tell you something before I get up off of you. We have in this day and age, right? We have in this day and age a lot of people that are living under the mechanism and the thought process one time of Aleister Crowley, which was do what thou wilt. You understand what I'm saying? I got you. Do what thou wilt. You understand? Y'all know that terminology by Aleister Crowley. He said it back in like I think 1930s, 1940s. I might be a couple years off. But do what thou wilt. He was a church of Satan that he was representing. Well, a lot of people, they fall under that category nowadays. They have this mentality of do what thou wilt. Do what thou wilt. You feel this way, do this. If you think this is the possible outcome and everybody knows 2 + 2 = 4, but you're saying 5, let's go along with it. All these monstrosity of ideas that are out here via the internet and via other different spots or whatever that are quite dangerous, to be honest with you. A lot of these ideas and these thoughts are brought about by people that in the normal world never would be heard. Without the internet. They never would be heard. They never would be mentioned. They never would be. There's been a lot of people that have been able to control a lot of influence, but they don't know influence like we do. Oh no, my type of influence is different. Their influence comes from having thousands of people in the chat room at one time. My influence comes from who I know. See, it don't matter if there's 20 people, 30 people. I got 30,000 people to follow. And out of them 30,000 people, a lot of them are stars. A lot of people are big people in the media. A lot of them are people that you would never guess in a million years. I know after 17 years working in the music industry. So it's not about how you influence, as long as you influence. I can't do this, but can you help me out? Don't worry about it. Anyway, listen. The only thing I'm saying to you is, be careful of people that bring forth new ideas on the internet. A lot of these people have never been heard of before. They're unaccomplished, they're unexperienced. A lot of them live in rural places in America. They've never seen America for what it really is. They only know America through the interpretation of a small little town that they live in somewhere in Nebraska or off of Daisy, Idaho. You know what I'm saying? So I can't take you real serious, but that's what the internet has allowed a lot of people to do. And I think I'll have a live about that later on, talking about trolls and things like that. And a lot of people that have these weird, whimsical ideas based on their small locales. If I bring it back to Charlie Kirk, you got to remember, Charlie Kirk got met his demise in a very small town, very, very small town, in a very rural state. You understand what I'm saying? When President Trump's assassination attempt came about, that in a very small town. If you're one of my long-time subscribers, do you remember when I said this? I said President Trump, one of the biggest problems we're going to have in the country coming up is uneducated white American men. I didn't say it quite like that. I said poor, trash. But you get what I'm saying. I'll try to keep this one. But they're very different from white Americans. Same thing with niggers. Very different from black Americans. Same thing with picks. Very different from Latin Americans. If you follow my drift here. So, yeah, I'm like Family Guy. I'm on everybody. I'm on everybody. Everybody messed up. You understand what I'm saying? Because if you look at each last one of those demographics and those groups that I just pointed at, you will find something that's synonymous with all of them. They're presumptuous. They like to spread lies. They like to push people into the net of submission based on how they feel or whatever. I had a man come on my channel and tell me, don't you say nothing else about Marathon. We saw it referring to Black Sam or whatever. There's not one thing I've said about Black Sam that was wrong. Whatever. And 2 days later, his new open restaurant was shot up. So yeah, no, I don't want it up here in the Northeast. We're not a gang culture society up here in the tri-state area. You understand? And most of y'all know that. The only thing they need to turn them up and get them started and get our city and the tri-state area looking crazy is opening that restaurant in all places but New York City. Nah, we don't need that. We don't need that up here. We're still coming out of COVID basically up here. We're coming out of cold winter up here. You understand what I'm saying? And the last thing we need is a shooting attached to a rapper in New York City. I'm sorry, we don't need it. Now, Jay and a couple rest of y'all, I'm sure y'all gonna be mad at me. By the way, I need about 20,000 to finish getting my teeth fixed if y'all want to hit up the Cash App anonymously or whoever. To all Bad Boy staff, all the great music moguls and CEOs out there, y'all ain't shit. I'm sorry, that's shit. For real, y'all ain't shit. I look at some of these, and I'm not talking about Black Sam, but I look at some of these rappers that be out nowadays, that be, I ain't talking about nobody specific either, but the older ones specifically, that be out here bragging about what they got. I'm making a documentary and all this shit. You guys are a waste of fucking breath nowadays. You know that? Like, I used to homage a lot of y'all, and now I just look at y'all like y'all ain't shit. Especially this past winter when you show who yourself was. You know, a lot of people talk shit about Cardi B. Cardi B was in Brooklyn and in the Bronx handing out jackets 3 years in a row. I don't know if she still does it, but she was doing it before. Made the paper, don't you? But they'll talk shit about Cardi. Nicki was doing similar stuff. They'll talk shit about Nicki. Rihanna was doing similar stuff. They'll talk shit about Rihanna. You don't have to pick cotton. That's cute. People, oh, you didn't mean it like that. I got you. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about picking cotton? Teeth messed up. Thank you, Mark. Mark, there's a Cash App right there. You can go through my page right here. I'm currently going to the dentist. It's going to cost about $14,000. So, Mark, we got your commitment $1,000 on, because you got big money, you know what I'm saying? We got your commitment on at least $1,000, right? Well, everybody encouraged Mark to go ahead and do it, because he's worried about my health. So everybody encouraged Mark to throw in $1,000 since he likes looking at boys' mouths. Is that a regular thing you do? You go around Mark looking at boys' mouths? What you got on your mind? Y'all better watch Mark. Mark's the type of guy, he inboxes a girl for the past year. Good morning, beautiful. Good morning, sunshine. She still ain't hit him back. It's been a year, Mark. He said, well, she ain't hit me back. I'm going to go out here and start talking to the fellas. Is that so, Mark? Where's Mark at? He's getting kind of quiet there. Mark, I'm worried about you. Come here, his teeth is messed up. Well, I need $14,000 more, man, to get it complete. So I'm sure you'll help out, right? Hey, Mark ain't got no money. I don't think Mark need to be here no more. Mark don't need to be here no more. Mark ain't got no money. That's why you got time to be in my live. Anyway, most of these rappers nowadays, like I was saying, ain't about shit. I had to come to contention of them. It took Diddy's trial. It took Diddy's trial actually being over to see the current state that we were in. So for those that are still true to this, I want to say this to you: watch who you hang with from the old crowd. I'm gonna say it one more time for you. Watch who you hang with from the old crowd. All right. I know I shouldn't have went into this, but I want to say it anyway. For all the old crowd, watch who you hang out with from the old crowd. A lot of these guys for years been snitches. Watch what you say around. A lot of these guys for years, they've been sitting on podcasts. Watch what you say around. A lot of these guys for years got stories about people, and they'll bring them to fruition because they ain't getting the same check they used to get. Watch who you talk to from the old crowd. For all the rappers is still true to this. Ken, what up? Joe, what up? Jada, what up? Math, what up? Flip, what up? Understand? There's a lot of snitching going on out here. I told him, I said, yo, listen, on my path to doing this one more time, because everybody think I'm coming back rapping. He's gonna still rap. I talked to one guy, I wrote in his chat room. He's a big guy in the music industry, but once was anyway. And he does a podcast. I ain't gonna say who it was, but he read my question off. He knew exactly who I was. And it was funny because he said to me, I tell people that are older, don't go get just go get a young artist. And go get a young artist. What I'm gonna go get a young artist for? For what? And put $200,000, $300,000 into that young artist, and then he turn around and shoot up the whole block. You get some kid ain't never had $100,000 and his whole entire, that's minimum money, $100,000 his whole entire life. He gonna go flood the block and shoot up the block and act like he the king of that block, because ain't nobody on that block ever seen $100,000. You know what I'm saying? And some of y'all ain't gonna understand it. Nah, not in today's time. I don't need no new artists. That's why I said I'm not worried about the older dudes really. If Big Sam opens up in Times Square, I'm worried about the young dudes. They wasn't given the gift of having people to talk to when they were young. A lot of their parents were locked up in jail and all kinds of other distractions. You know, I come from a generation where they had teen parents. I talk about this all the time. But if you don't understand, a lot of these kids, they don't like the older generation, not because they are offended by you, or they don't like it because it's reminiscent of their own childhood, meaning that they grew up with parents that had them at 13, 14, 15 years old. This is something I seen with my own two eyes. And it still continues on today. They had a show, if you need an example, called 16 and Pregnant that ran consecutively for seasons off of MTV, and it was all about teen parents. And I never saw a no on that, mom. Like, well, it's 2 times, I think. You understand? So this is a broad demographic that I'm talking about. My point is, a lot of these guys have been born to teen parents. Nobody gave them any vision. Nobody gave them any suggestions. They don't want to take any advice from anybody because they're looking at you like you might be their parent. You understand what I'm saying? And if their parent was a drug addict, their parent wasn't around a lot, their parent was promiscuous or whatever the case may be, had a whole bunch of men in the house, mama boyfriend coming over again, mama that man outside again, you know what I'm talking about. What you get is you get a whole bunch of pre-adults or adults now that feel like they're going to continue on tradition and be those same type of people that their mom and pop were. You got to be careful. Oh, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. So that's all I really wanted to say. I ain't got no problem with Black Sam or whatever the case may be. I just think, can you wait a year or two before you open up your New York location? I think it would be better for the city. You don't understand New York. You understand the West Coast. And I would have to say to Black Sam, I mean, like, look what happened at your restaurant the other day. This is the second time this happened. So it's no dissing. It's just protecting what's ours. And I think I have every right to do that. Every right to speak up for the tri-state area. I would look like a sucker sitting up here, and I'm not trying to challenge nobody enough, but I would look like a sucker sitting up here and not speaking up for the tri-state. We got some folks that's opening up a restaurant in the tri-state, and we've seen now 2 times you got shootings at your restaurant. I think that's fair. So what do you plan on doing here? What kind of influence you're going to bring here? So I think those are the questions that we have to ask and put in the measure or whatever. And I think by example right here, just alone, you can see what happened the other day at his restaurant. I'm not talking down to him. I'm not talking down to his crew or who he represents. Shout out to Snoop, all that. You understand what I'm saying? But let me put something in perspective for y'all, right? When that shooting happened, do y'all know that Stevie Wonder was inside Marathon Restaurant ordering? That's what they said. Or a few minutes before or afterwards. Either way, you had Stevie Wonder up in there and Knuckles was shooting outside. So they don't care nothing about Stevie. What the fuck make you think they're gonna care about somebody in Times Square? That's all I'm saying. They ain't care about Stevie. You think they're gonna care about somebody in Times Square? Come on, man, stop playing with me. So yeah, call it just preserving our interest up here, Big Black Sam. That's all. You understand? Ain't no diss, ain't no diss, ain't no prompt or nothing like that or whatever. It just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I don't think we need that problem in Times Square. A lot of people will take that as, hey, you know what? We got this now. So yeah, that's all. Anyway, shout out to Black Sam, shout out to Nipsey Hussle and his legend and everything like that or whatever. But yeah, man, let's wait out a year or so, whatever, you know. And I'll say like this, if you can, Jay, call over there and talk to him or whatever. You understand? And they don't understand what I'm talking about. That's all. We ain't talking about nothing really. I just don't like the, you know what I mean? So anyway, listen guys, I got to get on my train so I can get up out of here. If you in the chat room or whatever, yes, I will be at that event tonight, you heard. I'll be in the building. I ain't gonna tell y'all what. If y'all was messing with me and hitting the Cash App, I would stream it like I used to do. I used to stream all the industry events and everything else I went to, but I had to stop that because there wasn't no, financial support. So guys, make sure y'all hit up that Cash App, STRINGER. I am not a grifter. I buy equipment and everything like that. And there's one particular piece of equipment that I want to buy right now because it would help so much with the podcast, so much. So that product is about $300 something. So if y'all want to contribute to that, I'm gonna have a link put up that's a pool, and we're gonna raise about $600 or whatever. I got 30,000 subscribers, and my page is monetized, but we ain't making big money. You understand? So I want to make sure that I get the equipment that I want. This one particular piece of equipment is about $300. Usually when I buy stuff, well, I ain't gonna say usually, all the time when I buy stuff, I'll always show what I bought. I forgot what his name, Ahmad L. He'll pay what's his name, homage to that and tell you the truth, because he's donated to me 100 times, and every time he's donated to me, I always show what I bought with the money. If you go through my shorts history, you will see whenever people donated to me and I had a cause, I always bought what I said I was gonna buy. I don't know, it's just me, the background I come from, or whatever. I think you guys should get that. So if I'm asking you for money, I should show you what I bought with the money, you know, and not be like, all right, well, this is the 10th year we're gonna open the school. I ain't say that. Okay. Oh yeah, there's one other thing I want to say. They had Reverend Jesse Jackson's funeral today. I want to say rest in peace to Jesse Jackson. Many people didn't homage him the way that they were supposed to. Him or H-Rap Brown. RIP to you too, sir. Thank you for all the sacrifices that y'all made for everybody. And you will be remembered. So I just want to say that to both of them gentlemen. H-Rap Brown for the Black Panthers, and also Reverend Jesse Jackson, who many of us wouldn't even be here to talk the stuff that we talk without either one of them. So God bless them. Other than that, I will put up that pool and the link for it. Hopefully some of you guys will donate, support that for y'all big time rappers, you big time podcasters. Y'all know the drill. I need equipment piece so I can turn mine up. You understand what I'm saying? So you ain't got to fund me. Just look at it as an investment, and it's coming back to you. Most of y'all in the rap industry, being that I'm one of y'all's, you understand what I'm saying? Should have done that a long time ago. Help the boy get right so I can be out here and be on the side of some of y'all, maybe. Be, you know what I mean, promoting y'all, working with y'all, something like that. But if you ain't doing nothing, you just talking. Like, you don't want to see nobody else come up with y'all. You understand? Other than that, I will talk to y'all later. Thanks for tuning in.